Signature project, I extended my last year's project, Save the Monarchs, to Bees and Bees, Save the Bees and Butterflies. In my project, I built community gardens to help bring a safe environment for bees and butterflies as well as spread awareness. I started my project off by creating a logo that I wanted to help represent my brand and idea. Knowing that the native milkweed is dormant during the winter time, I started growing the plants in August. I started this off by collecting recycled planters, filling them with soil, and then planting the seeds. They then started to sprout around August 16th. These are what the monarch caterpillars look like, and they can only eat one type of plant, milkweed. Then grew my other plants that were going to be dedicated to helping the bees. I grew wild flowers, since they are a bunch of different flowers, giving the bees nutrients with different pollen. Next, I sent out letters to my neighbors about the garden spaces I was using, letting them know what I was doing and why I was doing it. I worked in the gardens I built last year to make them even better. Here's what the garden spaces looked like when I first started this project in 2020. And this is what the finished gardens look like from last year's junior project, which was only dedicated to helping the monarch butterflies. Even though I'm very dedicated to helping the monarch butterfly population, I knew with the endangered bee populations, I had to do something. That is why I changed my project this year. With the new connections I made over quarantine, I was able to get my hands on a very large garden space that the owner wanted to add native milkweed to. This space is located by the Los Angeles River and is also known as a butterfly garden, but needed some work. To help spread awareness towards the monarch and bee population, I made signs to put in the gardens explaining why this is so important and what you can do to help. I used information from research last year about monarchs for the posters, as well as photos I've taken to help show what people should be looking out for. Bees, since this was known, I had to do a bunch of research for the correct information I wanted. I then had to go and take photos of bee to help represent what I was talking about. Knowing these signs would be outside, I had to get them laminated to make sure they wouldn't get ruined. I then started to collect recycled wood as well as wire for the planter boxes I wanted to build. This wire is really important as it helps protect the plants from animals like gophers. I ended up building around 2 boxes since only one garden needed the boxes and had space for them. In my gardens, I knew that the boxes would not be able to fit, so I decided to build a stone wall where the plants could then spread naturally. My mom had extra blocks that I was able to use, and the method for the wall is stacking one where no cement is actually needed. Here's what the wall looks like from the front. Then transferred all the plants I wanted to plant there to the spot so they could get used to the area. Planting was the next step, wanting to mix the bee plants with the butterfly ones so it felt natural. Next, I put a bee sign up since the garden already had a monarch one in this space. I put the sign on a pole and put it by the plants to help spread awareness. As I was working in the garden, I saw a monarch caterpillar eating the milkweed I planted last year. Here's the first garden fully finished and settled in. Now that I was finished with the first garden fully, I was able to move on to the second one. The first thing I did was plan out where I wanted the boxes to be. I dug holes where I wanted to put the boxes so they would not move or shift. I also made sure that they were leveled so the water distribution would be even towards all the plants. Once the planter boxes were in, I filled it with soil and added signs behind the boxes. I then moved the watering plants down there so they could adjust to the climate and area before planting. Finishing off the planters, I planted all the plants in the boxes. First started working in these gardens, I saw about 20 monarch caterpillars. This means that my work from last year was paying off and I was finally able to see results from all my work last year. The last step of my second garden, we planted native pollinator plants around the boxes to help bring more shade and safety to the future caterpillars. In the end, this is what my second garden looked like. For my last garden by the Los Angeles River, I knew I was going to need help. I was able to get volunteers with a school group named Tugi, which I am the vice president of. The first thing we needed to do was remove all the non-native plants that were in the garden. This was a lot of work and we spent a lot of the time doing this. Once the plants were removed, we bagged all the plants and put them in my car so I was able to dispose of them. Next, we planned out where we wanted to plant the 30 milkweed plants that we had. I wanted the plants to be separated but not completely by themselves, as one monarch caterpillar can need up to 6 plants. So I wanted the plants planted in clusters all over the area in spaces they could thrive and grow. Even though the plants are somewhat small now, in the springtime they will grow to be very, very large and bushy plants. And since they are native plants, the plants are able to handle a lot and do not need a lot of water. Then the volunteers helped plant all the plants in the correct areas and cleaned up the area by picking up trash. Plants finally planted, I finally finished my last garden, which concludes my project for this year. Even though I did not do as many gardens as I wanted to, since the time and seasons were a challenge to me, I was still able to make a difference in my community. I plan on continuing this project in 2022 with new garden space that I already have lined up and people who are interested in helping me as well. Now here's a walkthrough of my final garden so you're able to see truly how big the third garden space is and where all the milkweed plants are planted. The whole purpose of this project was to help spread awareness about things that people do not even realize that are affected by their actions. Everyone is able to make a difference in the environment and ecosystem, and it is truly needed everywhere. Even with me going to college next year, these projects will continue to thrive on their own, and I will continue to try and make a difference in this area as much as possible. Everyone is able to make a difference if they truly want to. So go out and make a difference where you can and where is needed.